The final war did not begin with the triumphant drums of liberation or the roar of cannons. It began with silence, a heavy, suffocating silence imposed by the complete awakening of Marshal D. Teach Yami Yami no Mi. The theory begins here. The battlefield itself, whether the rocky hives of Hachinosu or the shores of Laugh Tale, has been transformed into an environment where light itself is forbidden. But Blackbeard's darkness does something far worse than simply blinding the eyes. It acts as a spiritual gravity, weighing down upon the will of every living soul, suffocating and dampening the usage of Haki itself. In this nightmarish landscape, Roronoa Zoro stands isolated. The King of Hell, who once dominated the skies of Wano, now faces his natural predator, Shiryu of the Rain. But forget the swordsman we knew in Impel Down. Our speculation points to the true terror of a Logia-like Paramecia awakening. Shiryu has not just become invisible to the naked eye. Upon awakening the Suk no Mi, he has transcended matter. He has erased his scent, his sound, and most terrifying of all, his voice. For a master of observation Haki, like Zoro, fighting Shiryu becomes a physiological impossibility. Zoro's entire combat style relies on sensing the intent, the breath of all things. But Shiryu has become nothingness. He is a void in space. There is no killing intent to detect, no spirit to track, until the cold steel has already severed skin and muscle. The combat devolves into a unilateral massacre. Zoro's King of Hell mode, once his ultimate trump card, now becomes his curse. The sword Enma is a demanding entity. It voraciously drains the user's Haki to code attacks in Conqueror's Haki. In a standard duel, this ends the fight quickly, but against an intangible ghost, it is suicide. Zoro is burning through his vital energy, swinging his blades against the empty air, while Enma furiously consumes his dwindling reserves. With every passing second, the environmental darkness and the sword's hunger leave Zoro slower, weaker. Deep cuts appear across his body, on his arms, his legs, his chest, without him ever seeing the origin. Shiryu's blade Ryu, likely bathed in a coagulating, paralytic poison concocted by Doc Q, ensures that the legendary resilience of the Roronoa bloodline is corroded from the inside out. The climax of this first chapter is the collapse of the Straw Hat's unwavering shield. Zoro falls to his knees. Crimson blood flows freely, disappearing into the black ground. He attempts to lift Wado Ikamanji to his mouth, but his arms tremble uncontrollably. Enma, sensing that the Haki reserves are dry, begins to try and consume Zoro's actual lifespan. He is empty. For the first time since his vow to Mihawk, defeat is not a distant possibility. It is standing right in front of him, invisible and laughing. The vessel is broken, void of its own strength, and it is exactly this hollowness that will allow the impossible to happen next. While the abyss swallowed the swordsman below, the heavens above were being torn asunder. This brings us to the second pillar of our theory, the metaphysical connection between the captain and his first mate. High above the gloom of Hachinosu, Monkey D. Luffy, in the throes of Gear 5, is locked in a cataclysmic struggle against the tremors of the Gura no Mi. But the Nika transformation is not merely a boost in physical strength. It is the manifestation of absolute freedom and heightened spiritual awareness. Even amidst the manic laughter and the cartoonish violence of his battle with Blackbeard, Luffy's observation Haki picks up a terrifying silence where a roaring fire used to be. He feels Zoro's voice flickering out like a candle in a hurricane. We speculate that Gear 5 possesses a secondary unexplored ability, the capacity to share the rhythm of liberation. We have seen Luffy turn inanimate objects into rubber and impart his will upon the environment. The theory posits that in a moment of pure, instinctual desperation, Luffy does something unprecedented. He doesn't just manipulate the ground or the lightning. He manipulates his own life force. The drums of liberation, doom da-da-da, are not just a sound. They are a frequency of Haki that defies the natural order. Ignoring the darkness grasping at his ankles, Luffy reaches into his own chest, grabbing the very essence of his heartbeat, a concentrated mass of pure, white-hot spiritual pressure. He doesn't scream a command. There is no time for words. He physically hurls this fragment of the sun god's soul downwards, aiming blindly into the abyss where his right-hand man is dying. It is a gamble that defies logic, a transfer of raw mythical Zoan energy into a human vessel that is currently devoid of defense. The energy bolt cuts through Teach's darkness like a comet, a streak of blinding white crashing into the spot where Zoro kneels. This is not a gentle healing technique like Marco's Phoenix Flames. This is violent. It is an infusion of chaotic, divine power. When that white lightning slams into Zoro's back, it doesn't comfort him. It shocks his failing heart back into a rhythm that no human body should sustain. From a lore perspective, this moment represents the ultimate clash of concepts. Zoro, who has spent the Wano arc mastering the King of Hell style, drawing power from the depths of restriction and suffering, is suddenly forcibly filled with the energy of Nika, the embodiment of joy and boundlessness. The impact creates a shockwave that momentarily clears the poisonous mist surrounding him. Zoro's body convulses. His blood, stagnant from the poison, begins to boil. The demonic spirit within Enma, which was starving just moments ago, suddenly finds itself gorging on an infinite, unfamiliar power source. This isn't just a recharge. It is a spiritual hostile takeover. The emptiness left by Zoro's drained Haki is instantaneously flooded with the volatile essence of the sun, setting the stage for a transformation that is neither human nor demon, but something entirely new. The moment Luffy's raw spiritual energy slammed into Zoro, the result was not salvation, but a violent internal cataclysm. The body of the swordsman became the battleground for two diametrically opposing cosmic forces. On one side, the remnant fumes of the King of Hell, a dark, heavy, grounding Haki rooted in earthly suffering and the dominance of the self. On the other, the volatile, bounding, and liberating essence of Nika, a power that seeks to break all chains and defy reality itself. For a normal human, this mixture would be fatal. The conflicting frequencies of Haki would tear the vessel apart at the cellular level. Zoro screamed, a soundless, guttural roar that vibrated through the battlefield, as his skin began to crack, leaking beams of pure white light. Enma, the cursed blade, shrieked in unison, vibrating so violently it threatened to shatter. The sword, accustomed to feeding on the user's spirit to produce destruction, was now being force-fed the essence of a god. But here lies the crux of the transformation, the detail that defines the god killer. Zoro did not surrender to the light. He did not let the drums of liberation dictate his rhythm. Instead, his indomitable will, the same iron resolve that once absorbed all of Luffy's pain in the Thriller Bark arc, acted as a vice. He clamped down on the foreign energy. He grabbed the intangible light of the sun god and crushed it under the weight of his own demonic ambition. He didn't become a god. He enslaved the power of one. The visual transformation was horrific and majestic in equal measure. The oppressive darkness of Blackbeard's awakened fruit was suddenly pierced by a cold, sharp radiance. The swirling green aura of the King of Hell turned inward, imploding, only to explode outward in a blinding silver-white column of fire. As the column dissipated, Roronoa Zoro stood revealed, but changed. The moss-green hair, his signature, had been bleached into a flowing metallic silver, standing wild and long, mimicking the ethereal nature of Gear 5, but lacking its softness. His shirt had been incinerated by the initial blast, revealing his scarred torso. And there, the massive scar given to him by Dracul Mihawk, the mark of his first defeat, began to glow. It wasn't a simple light. It was a burning, white X etched across his chest, pulsating like a second heart, acting as the reactor core for this stolen divinity. He opened his remaining eye. The pupil was gone, replaced by a blank, glowing white void that emitted a visible trail of spirit energy. He was no longer just a swordsman. He was a paradox walking the earth, a demon clad in the raiment of a god. The surrounding shadows of the Yami Yami no Mi didn't just recede. They were obliterated, cut away by the sheer sharpness of his existence. He was the God Killer, not because he kills gods, but because he has taken the power of a god and sharpened it into a weapon for the King of Hell. As the incandescent silver aura of the God Killer stabilized around Roronoa Zoro, a terrifying question rippled through the minds of those witnessing the spectacle. From a physiological and spiritual standpoint, what we are observing should be impossible. The infusion of a mythical Zoan's awakened essence, specifically the sun god Nika, the warrior of liberation, into a non-fruit user whose spirit is deeply entrenched in the dark, heavy, demonic path of the King of Hell, creates a spiritual contradiction so volatile it should have obliterated the host instantly. A normal human body, even one trained to the absolute peak of physical perfection, would have detonated from the sheer pressure of containing the drums of liberation, while simultaneously wielding the life-draining curse of Enma. The fact that Zoro stands there breathing, his heart beating in a syncopated rhythm of doom and divinity, points to a singular, earth-shattering revelation about his true lineage. For years, scholars and fans alike believed that the revelation of Zoro's lineage in the Wano Country arc was the final piece of the puzzle. We were told he is a descendant of the Shimatsuki clan, carrying the blood of the legendary sword god Ryuma. While this explains his proficiency with the blade and his latent potential, it does not explain this specific anomaly. Being a Shimatsuki grants him the potential for a black blade, but it does not grant the durability to host the soul of a sun god. The theory posits that there is a deeper, darker secret hidden within the name Roronoa, a secret that connects him to the very enemies of the gods themselves. We speculate that Roronoa Zoro is, and has always been, a bearer of the will of D. Consider the evidence of his resilience throughout the saga. The will of D is often characterized by an indomitable will to survive and a smile in the face of death. While Zoro does not always smile like Luffy or Roger, his defiance of death is supernatural. He survived the fatal slash from Dracul Mihawk in the East Blue. He absorbed the accumulated pain and suffering of an entire crew in the Thriller Bark arc during the Nothing Happened incident, a feat that Kuma explicitly stated would kill him. Most recently, and perhaps most critically, he faced the literal Grim Reaper in Wano and returned from the brink. This was not a hallucination, it was a trial. Zoro's soul has been tempered by near-death experiences so frequently that his spirit has evolved to exist on the threshold between the living and the dead. The D clan are known as the natural enemies of the gods. In this context, the symbolism reaches its peak. Luffy, the one who became a god, Nika, represents the D, who brings the dawn. Zoro, the god killer, represents the other side of the D coin, the D who subjugates the divine. By forcing the Nika energy to submit to his demonic will, Zoro is fulfilling the ultimate purpose of his bloodline. He is not borrowing this power, he is conquering it. Furthermore, looking closely at the transformation, the glowing white X scar on his chest serves a distinct function. It is no longer just a wound. It has become a seal. The Shimatsuki blood gave him the vessel of a sword god, but the will of D gave him the spirit of a demon. This duality allows him to act as the perfect counterbalance to Luffy. While Luffy's white form is rubbery, soft, and bounding, Zoro's white form is sharp, rigid, and lethal. He has become the shadow of the sun. The lore implication here is that the Pirate King requires two wings to fly. One who embodies the joy of freedom, Luffy/Nika, and one who bears the burden of judgment, Zoro/God Killer. This transformation confirms that Zoro's destiny was never just to be the strongest swordsman. That is a title for mortals. His true destiny, written in his hidden lineage, was to become an entity capable of cutting through the very concepts that bind the world: fate, luck, and even the intangibility of the void itself. He stands now not as a subordinate, but as an equal to the sun god, the only man in history capable of wielding the fires of liberation through the cold steel of a blade. Here is Part 5, the final chapter, written as a massive, continuous, dark, and highly detailed narrative script in English. Part 5, The Dawn's Executioner, Cleaving the Infinite Night. The transformation is complete. Roronoa Zoro, now the God Killer, stands as a beacon of terrifying silver light amidst the suffocating void of Hachinosu. The final phase of our theory centers on the execution of power. How does a swordsman cut something that does not exist? The answer lies in the fundamental nature of the energy Zoro has subjugated. The drums of Nika represent absolute freedom, a force that ignores the laws of physics. By fusing this reality-bending freedom with the disciplined, lethal intent of the sword god, Zoro has evolved beyond the need for traditional sensory perception. He no longer needs to see Shiryu. He simply dictates that Shiryu must be cut. The atmosphere on the battlefield shifts instantly. The oppressive gravity of Blackbeard's Yami Yami no Mi, which had been crushing the spirits of the rebellion, is violently repelled by the sheer sharpness of Zoro's aura. It is not a gentle pushing back of the shadows. It is a severance. The air crackles with white lightning as the God Killer takes his stance. Wado Ikamanji in his mouth, Sandai Katetsu, and Enma in his hands. All three blades are no longer coated in the black sheen of armament or the green flame of hell. They are enveloped in a blinding, jagged white luminescence. This is the pinnacle of Haki, the physical manifestation of liberation applied to the art of killing. Shiryu of the Rain, lurking within the subdimensions of his awakened invisibility, feels a sensation he hasn't experienced since his days in Impel Down: primal fear. For the first time, his awakened form offers no safety. The light radiating from Zoro isn't just illumination. It's a truth that burns away deception. The invisibility begins to flicker. The void where Shiryu hides is being forcibly rejected by the world because Zoro's will, amplified by the sun god's power, refuses to acknowledge a place where his sword cannot reach. Zoro moves. It is not the high-speed blur of Saru or the burst of movement we are used to. It is an instantaneous displacement. One moment, he is standing still. The next, he occupies the space where the darkness is thickest. He doesn't swing wildly. He performs a single synchronized motion of all three blades, a technique that transcends the 3,000 worlds. Santoryu Oji, Kamigoroshi Byakuya no Zengiki, three-sword style secret art. Godslayer, slash of the White Knight. The attack does not produce a flying slash of wind. Instead, it creates a linear fault line in reality. A massive vertical plane of white energy erupts, bisecting the battlefield from the earth to the dark clouds above. The silence of the abyss is shattered by the sound of glass breaking on a cosmic scale. The effect is immediate and catastrophic for the Blackbeard pirates. The awakened dimension of the Suk no Mi is shattered. Shiryu is ripped from the void, his invisible form forced into tangibility, blood spraying from a massive, glowing wound across his chest that mirrors the X on Zoro's own body. But the attack doesn't stop at Shiryu. The slash continues upward, carving through the artificial night created by Marshall D. Teach. For the first time in hours, a single ray of genuine sunlight pierces through the gloom, illuminating the devastation. This moment confirms the ultimate role of the God Killer. While Luffy brings the dawn by rising like the sun, Zoro brings the dawn by slaughtering the night. He is the executioner who clears the path. As the white aura begins to fade, leaving Zoro standing amidst the dissipating silver mist, steam rising from his scarred body, the message to the world is clear. The right hand of the Pirate King has not just defeated a Titanic captain, he has cut the concept of invincibility itself. The wings of the Pirate King are fully spread, one made of joy, the other made of judgment. And in this theoretical climax, Roronoa Zoro proves that even if the world is plunged into eternal darkness, his blade remains the one thing that will always shine through. Here is Part 6, the final epilogue and aftermath analysis, written as a massive, continuous, dark, and highly detailed narrative script in English. Part 6. The Price of Divinity, The Return of the Reaper. The slash that bifurcated the heavens above Hachinosu did not merely leave a scar upon the island's geography. It fractured the very power structure of the world. However, the moment the blinding silver radiance of the God Slayer technique dissipated, the cruel reality of human biology came to collect its insurmountable debt. This sixth and final chapter focuses on the immediate biological collapse and the terrifying global implications of the brief moment a mortal man wielded the power of absolute liberation. The instant Shiryu fell, defeated and exposed, the metaphysical tether between captain and first mate was violently severed. The energy of Nika, volatile and divine by nature, cannot permanently inhabit a vessel that lacks the elasticity and mythological resilience of an awakened Zoan fruit. The exodus of this energy from Zoro's body was as violent as its entry. The ethereal white glow that had clothed his hair and blades did not fade gently. It was expelled in a catastrophic burst of superheated steam, rupturing blood vessels and tearing through the swordsman's newly healed skin. Zoro, who seconds prior appeared as an untouchable deity, collapsed. But this was not a fall born of simple weakness. It was the structural bankruptcy of a vessel that had contained a supernova. The smoke rising from his scarred torso was not the whimsical, cartoonish vapor that surrounds Luffy in Gear 5. It was the smoke of flesh burned by the friction of spiritual pressure. The glowing silver X scar on his chest instantly darkened, turning a deep necrotic black, a permanent brand signifying that he had touched the forbidden and survived. Enma, now gorged on a quantity of haki that would take centuries to accumulate naturally, entered a state of deep dormancy, its purple blade becoming opaque, cold, and heavy as lead, refusing to be drawn. In this heavy silence following the battle, the theory expands to the reaction of the world's apex powers, a crucial element of Eiichiro Oda's world building. Far away, perhaps aboard the Cross Guild's flagship, the hawk eyes of Dracul Mihawk would widen imperceptibly. For the first time, the black blade Yoru on his back would vibrate not out of challenge, but out of recognition. Mihawk, who has long awaited someone to surpass his former rival Shanks, would sense a disturbance in the equilibrium of the world's swordsman. He would realize that Zoro has not walked the path of softness or pure technique. Zoro forced his own soul to become a black hole capable of swallowing and redirecting the light of a god. This recontextualizes their inevitable final duel. It will no longer be simply the strongest black blade versus the challenger, but rather the perfect order, Mihawk versus the liberating chaos, Zoro, the god killer. Simultaneously, the figure of the Grim Reaper that Zoro glimpsed in Wano gains a harrowing new significance. That was no hallucination. The theory suggests that by activating the God Killer mode, Zoro effectively died for those few minutes. His will, the will of D hidden in his lineage, kept his body moving purely through obstinacy and duty. Now, on the dark ground of Hachinosu, as Sanji sprints desperately toward him, breaking his facade of rivalry for the first time with genuine terror in his eyes, we see the true curse of this power. Zoro is not merely unconscious. He is in a spiritual limbo, once again negotiating his existence with the King of Hell. The final impact of this transformation is the message sent to the world government and the Gorosei. They feared Nika, the warrior of liberation, but now they possess a new, darker fear, the shadow of Nika. They realize that Joy Boy has not returned alone. He has returned with an executioner, a demon who requires no devil fruit to sever reality. The existence of the God Killer proves that human determination, when pushed to the absolute extremes of hell, can rival the divine powers of the fruits. The Vice Captain is not just a support, he is the failsafe. The world now knows that if the Sun God fails to bring the dawn with a smile, the God Killer will bring the dawn by force, cleaving the night itself in two. And so, Zoro sleeps, covered in blood and soot, having solidified his legend not just as the greatest swordsman, but as the most dangerous man on the seas.